There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTube. I'm Shawn Breathes Books. Welcome back to my channel and to a very special annual event that I have been doing for 3 years with the preeminent Calgary, Alberta writer, Barb Howard, who I'll just stop for a moment, take a breath and say, hi, Barb, welcome back.
Hi, Shawn. Novellas again.
Novellas again. We have been assigning each other novellas to read. This is our 3rd year, if I didn't make that clear before. And in years past, we have recommended to each other novellas that we ourselves had read and enjoyed. And this year, we're going to mix things up a bit. All 3 of the novellas I'm going to be assigning, Barb, I haven't read yet, but I really want to. And I think 1 or 2 of Barb's are it's the same. So we're giving ourselves more reading, and that sounds like a very good thing. This grew out of the fact that Barb Howard's novella, Happy Sands, was a wonderful novella that I enjoyed. Got it from the library, loved it, got a copy. I read it a second time the same year. And that conversation with Barb led to some meta chats about the novella and gave birth to this wonderful project. This is part 1 of the collaboration. And we're going to come back in 4 or 5, 6 months and report back. So stay tuned for that video, which will probably be much longer than this one. Barb, do you want to get it started?
Sure. How do we want to do it? Oldest to newest, or doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. I want to start with the man and then get to the important writers, the women, for the final 2. That's how I've organized mine.
I looked at my list just before this and thought, I've done a terrible job of shopping Canadian. I wish I'd come at it from that angle, but I did think of these before the curtain shop Canada thing. So I'm going to start with the one Canadian that I've picked to give her priority. And this is one that you may have read. I read maybe 30 years ago or something. Kristjana Gunnars, who is an Icelandic Canadian writer. She lives in Alberta. And the book that I chose, the novella, is The Prowler. I have a copy here because I did read it. And what was in that book seems particularly relevant to some things that are going on right now in the world, but also because you and I did Sharon Reese's True Story of Ida Johnson, and I think that was classified as postmodern or something. This would be around the same time. And I can't remember it. It's a good thing about being old. I can't remember anything about it except the Icelandic immigrant part.
Yeah. And so is it set in Alberta?
It is set in Alberta and Iceland.
Iceland. Oh, that's fascinating. Do you know her?
I do not know her.
I only knew her name, and I think I would have been able to say that I knew she was a Canadian writer, but that's it. Very interesting.
She's also an artist, Canadian artist.
When was it published?
1989.
Okay.
By Red Deer Press, I believe. And in this very old version that I have, it was the 5th printing. And it won the McNally Robinson Book of the Year award when that was a thing. So it did well, got some chops.
I'm so glad you brought up the Canadian thing, because I think that there is this the right word? A dearth of Canadian novellas. And wonder why that is. I can't even think of one besides Happy Sands right now, Bear by Marian Engel, but there haven't been a whole bunch. Why is that? What do you think?
I don't know. And I'm actually going to teach a course, a short 1.5 hour thing at a conference on novellas coming up. And yeah, I don't know.
There was one Canadian.
I thought of it as a Canadian thing, but I'm going to think some more on that.
Yeah, because like none of the big writers that I can think of, Atwood, Robertson Davies, Alice Munro, of course, wrote short stories, but Mavis Gallant, Mordecai Richler, none of them wrote novellas that I'm aware of. And I think I can safely say they didn't. So it's very interesting.
The quote that I see about this book, The Prowler, is saying it's about a people trapped by landscape and politics.
Well, I now see why you're
quite Canadian already.
Thing that will have relevance to today's climate. It's great. Shall I go on to my first?
Yes, please.
So this one is translated, and this is a German novella, and it's called Old Rendering Plant by Wolfgang Hilbig, and it's translated from the German by Isabel Fargo Cole. And when was it published? In German 2010, translation 2017. And it's published in English by Two Lines Press. I actually don't remember why I had it. It might have been a recommendation by the Irish novelist and reader extraordinaire Ronan Hession, and that might be why I bought it. But when my friend Lindy had her second concussion in 3 years, she couldn't read for a few weeks, several weeks, and so I started reading to her nightly. I think I might have mentioned this to you in another context. And I read her short stories or I read her the opening chapter or whatever from novels. And so I read her the first 10 pages of Old Rendering Plant, and it was so hypnotic that it was 3 years ago. So obviously, if I'd wanted to read it immediately, I could have, and I haven't. So this is a good excuse to finally get to it because I just thought those long half-page sentences that were full of stuff, I just loved it. The premise of this one is that a young boy becomes obsessed with an empty, dilapidated coal plant. And he interprets a lot of kind of ominous stuff that's going on in his neighborhood or through the countryside that he thinks it's somehow maybe supernatural or whatever. And then as he grows older, it gets converted to an abattoir, which is a butcher's, what do you call it?
Slaughterhouse kind of thing.
Yeah, processing dead animals, an abattoir. I sometimes forget what abattoir means. And his relationship to that building changes, and that's basically the premise of it. And that's all I know about it. If it wasn't for the prose, I don't think it would have interested me. But I read that 10 pages to Lindy, and it's like, oh my God. So that's why I've chosen that one. Have you read anything by Wolfgang Hilbig? I certainly haven't.
I have not, and I don't think I have ever read a book with an abattoir in it.
There you go.
So this will be my first.
Yes.
I don't think I've avoided them, but possibly. I don't know. We'll have to see how this goes.
Absolutely.
My next two, actually, I think you'll be happy with. They fall on the very light end of novellas, I think. So the one I'll talk about now is Madeline Miller, American writer. And I had not seen a copy of this, but I have now, and it was much smaller than I expected. And even on the front, they call it a short story, but I've seen it referred to as a novella in all sorts of places. So there's discussion fodder right there.
Absolutely.
So she is known for these short ones. Don't know her?
Now that I've seen the title of that, her name didn't ring a bell, but that title does.
This is Galatea, and she's known for Circe, and I think she's well known for something about Achilles. So Greek myths. And in this one, this is the story of Galatea and Pygmalion. This is the sculpture that is brought to life. I think it's at the behest of the sculptor, and this, I think, is a modern version of that.
And so I'm guessing this is one that you haven't read yet.
I have not read this.
Okay.
Yes. And I guess what I'm thinking is, looking at it and looking at the size of it, is it enough to be a novella? And then I thought, I'll keep it on the list because I want to read it.
That's great. And this is really good because I very drama queenishly complain about how much I deeply dislike myth-based fiction, retellings of myths. And so I've prided myself in saying, oh, you couldn't pay me to read Circe. We need new stories. It's just like Bible shit. No, myths are boring. I don't care. So slightly more grown-up, Shawn, we'll get to revisit that by reading Galatea.
But hardly anything because it's so small. And also, I would say this one comes to me. I usually ask independent bookstore for a recommendation, and my local bookstore, their whole staff recommended this one. So we'll see. But I also sometimes think it's Disneyist to keep telling the same story and just in a slightly different way. We'll see. It has very good reviews.
Yeah, no, that's great. And as a baby step into sampling some, and my tastes do evolve. So maybe I'm not going to have any problems with it. Maybe it'll be a gateway novel.
I think it's 2013. And for some reason, I thought it was like 2024, 2025. But when I look at this, yes. So I could be wrong on that date.
Shall I go on to my next one?
Yes, please.
This one has been described as a meld of fiction and memory. So it's based on an acquaintance of the author, but it is a work of fiction. This is an American writer that I had never heard of until I heard about this book, and I ordered it, and I haven't read it yet. And so now is the time. It is called Cheri by Joanne Beard. Have you heard of Joanne Beard?
I have, but I can't think in relation to which book. Not
Yeah.
that one.
She's known for short story collections, Festival Days, and The Boys of My Youth. In the UK, they've been brought out as the collected works of Joanne Beard and a novel, Zanesville. Does that ring a bell?
No, The Boys of My Youth does, though.
Oh, okay. And she's American, but I don't know where she lives or anything. But this came out at the same time as the British publisher Serpent's Tail brought out the collected works as a standalone volume. And this is it's about a 100-page essayistic memoir work of fiction about the last days of her acquaintance Cheri's life. So it's a novel about death and dying. She wasn't close with Cheri. She did her Cheri. How would you pronounce this name? Cheri.
I would say Cherry, but share with an I, but I don't know.
I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I should have looked that up. But anyway, Cheri's adult children cooperate. They gave their blessing and maybe they were interviewed for it, but it is a work of fiction and it is supposed to be really powerful. And I like reading fiction about death and dying. It's a topic that's always fascinated me. It's probably going to be quite moving, but maybe it'll be a completely different tone than that.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. So I'm gonna take us way back in time. I'm a fan of Herman Melville. I really like Moby Dick. I'm a fan of some of these books that were written before computers, especially this is way before it. So my first inclination was to use this book that I have a copy of on my shelf and haven't read, which was Billy Budd Sailor.
Okay.
When I just did some initial research on that, and I realized that's one that wasn't finished. And that went poorly for us when the last time we did the Marquez one. Okay, I want something that the author thinks is finished. On my list, written in 1853, is Melville's Bartleby the Scrivener.
Barb, I have to say, I'd prefer not to.
Not to read it?
I'm making a bit of a pun because have you read it?
Oh, yes, that's so funny. That's actually why I thought I'd stick with it is I don't know the story, but I know that's the famous phrase from it. And who isn't feeling a bit of that these days?
I read it about 6 years ago and I didn't get a whole lot out of it. So I would welcome a chance to reread it. Yes, I would. I did not like it, but people venerate that one. And I wasn't wowed to that degree. So giving it
Interesting. The quote that I had on it from one of the critical essays was that it is unquestionably the masterpiece of the short fiction in the Melville canon. How big is the Melville canon on short fiction? But yes, if you're looking at it thinking, no, don't even want to do this again. I did have other options.
Oh, that's great. And Billy Budd, I think I read it maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It has been used as a seminal text, if you'll pardon the pun, for queer studies. That there's a lot of homoerotic stuff going on in Billy Budd. And I think I read it, either that or I read so much academic criticism of it that I feel like I've read it. So that would be one I'd be interested in reading too, but very happy to revisit. Bartleby the Scrivener, absolutely. So that's great.
And yeah, Billy Budd, it looks longer than a novella to me,
Yeah, I
but I
think it
don't know
is.
if that's a bunch, even though they're calling it a novella. So that also fell into the, maybe Bartleby's too short, but maybe that's what we need since we're reading 6.
We're going to be reading more titles than we have in years past, yes.
I am interested in books with lawyers. Like I'd like to write one myself, and whenever I include a lawyer, it doesn't really turn out so well. It comes out like some bad TV show or something. So I'm interested to see if it's done well or not.
My last pick is hot off the press. Maybe came out a month ago, and it is another translated novella from Japan. It's called Hunchback by Saou Ichikawa. And it is translated from the Japanese by Polly Barton, who's one of the best Japanese translators. And this one is, I think, autofiction. Saou Ichikawa is a female writer. I think she's young. And this book won big Japanese literary prizes, including the Akutagawa Prize, which is their preeminent literary prize. The protagonist, like the author, has congenital myopathy and uses a ventilator and wheelchair, electric wheelchair. And I'm interested in disability literature and Japanese literature, and I've heard rave reviews of it. It's not autofiction in the sense that the main character is named Saou Ichikawa. Its protagonist is Shaka, but her life situation is the same in terms of the same disabilities and the same use of ventilator and electric wheelchair. She is a very creative, active person with a great sense of humor and very ambitious. And she plays around on Twitter, and one day she sends out a tweet saying that she would pay an enormous amount of money for a sperm donor. And her male attendant, nurse attendant, takes her up on it, and plot ensues.
Oh, I love that it's a translation. I actually love all your suggestions when they're translations because they're books I wouldn't necessarily come across. What is that on the cover of that book?
I don't know actually.
Ah,
I
okay.
don't know what it's supposed to represent. Could be a human body, but I'm not sure. And this is Saou Ichikawa's debut. Lives outside Tokyo. And it sounds absolutely fascinating. So it's going to be sexy and funny and probably quite heartrending in places. It's the first time that a disabled writer has been awarded any of these major literary prizes in Japan. It's not a very disability-friendly culture. Or maybe that's not right to say, but like Japan on gender rights and queer rights, it's decades behind the West in terms of disability. So this is an important book and apparently a very good one.
Interested. I'm thinking that the rights for disabled writers in Canada aren't where they should be either.
Oh, absolutely. This one, I think I got it from the UK in hardcover, but I think that you can get it in North America in a softcover edition, but I don't remember that too clearly. These are all quite new books, very new. This one is this year. This one is, what did I say? Anyway, this is quite new, and this one is 2022, I believe. So
It's me bringing the past into the conversation.
no, that's great. Absolutely. I'm intrigued by your choices as well.
It's about the evolution of the novella.
Yes, absolutely. And let's both have a think about the dearth of Canadian novellas, and maybe we can have a Canada-only novella discussion one year.
Yeah, I was reaching for a book thinking it's because every time I think it's a Canadian novella, it's written in such tiny print that it's actually a novel, which happened to me a number of times for this. And I'm like, oh, that little book. And then it's, oh no, it's just they save costs on printing by cramming so many words in and eliminating margins. I don't know. I have to think on it.
The Canadian writer John Metcalf. Do you know him? I've never read anything by
No,
him.
no.
And I actually owned a collection of his novellas in one volume, but I didn't keep it because I hadn't read it yet, and I thought, oh, I can get it again if I need it when I move back. And I can't find the title here. So I know he writes novellas, but not many Canadian writers do. So now I'd like to segue into, are you working on a novella now, Barb?
I am, but it's going a little bit slowly. I'm going to have some history that I am researching, but yeah, I got energized. And then in the meantime, I did get a new book contract for a short story collection. I'll be rewriting that over the next couple of months. See, I don't have a publication date for it. I hope it's not 2028. I hope it's sooner, but I'm hearing 2028 from people who are signing contracts right now. It's the University of Calgary, and I was very happy with them last time. So we'll see. The universities do move slow, but also back to politics, there's funding questions.
Happy Sands was physically just a book that felt really good in your hand. It was a very good quality.
I like that a lot. I like that. So we'll see. That's where I'm at.
I can't wait. We're going to take our sweet time to read a few extra novellas this go around, but I'm sure looking forward to regrouping in a few months, Barb.
Yeah, same. Happy reading.